Inventions are born out of necessity. Ukraine faced a problem that seemed unsolvable. What we need is sustained and steady growth in the production and procurement of every necessary component for unmanned aerial vehicles. Russia was sending hundreds of cheap drones overnight, and Ukraine was forced to spend dozens of times more on missiles to shoot them down each time. Every Shahad shot down seemed like a success. But in reality, every successful defense was making Ukraine a little poorer. Russia had deliberately set up this equation to deplete expensive missiles with cheap drones. It was a classic attrition trap. Supplies were dwindling. The West's supply pace couldn't keep up, and Putin was certain the trap was working. Ukraine had two options: either beg the West for an endless supply of missiles or change the rules of the game. So Ukraine devised its own solution to break this dilemma: interceptor drones. And in March 2026, this system proved its worth. In a single month, over 33,000 Russian air targets were destroyed by interceptor drones. In February, that number was around 16,500. That's a 100% increase in a single month. This might sound exaggerated, but the details you're about to see will show why this figure is accurate and why it marks a turning point for Ukraine. To understand this system, we first need to look at how it works. The interceptor drone is a simple yet ingenious concept: intercepting an enemy drone in flight and destroying it either by colliding directly or by detonating its small explosive payload near the target. Unlike traditional air defense systems, interceptor drones are cheap, lightweight, and can be mass-produced. Ukraine's most common model, the Sting, is a 3D printed platform with an aerodynamic bullet-shaped body developed by Wild Hornets. The Sting, approved by NATO, can reach speeds exceeding 340 kilometers per hour. That's much faster than a Shahed. It can operate at an altitude of 7 kilometers and is equipped with a thermal camera and an AI-assisted guidance system. The thermal camera, developed by Kerbis and Odd Systems, clearly detects the Shahed's heat signature even in the dead of night. And the 500G warhead shreds the target in midair. Its cost ranges between $1,000 and $2,500. This cost difference changes everything, because Ukraine can counter hundreds of times more air threats with the same budget. The second important model is the P-1 Sun, a fully 3D printed modular interceptor produced by Skyfall. Its cost is only around $1,000, making it the cheapest air defense system in the war. The fiber optic linked version completely neutralizes Russia's electronic warfare systems because it is controlled via a physical cable, so signal jamming does not work. Its lightweight design, easily transportable by frontline units, makes it an ideal field weapon. In the first months of 2026, P-1 Sun interceptors alone shot down over 3,000 Shahed drones. A version launched from an AN-28 aircraft has also entered testing. Thanks to the flying mothership concept, the interceptors can now initiate operations from the air as well. And for faster targets, there's the Bullet model with a jet-powered hybrid design capable of reaching 600 kilometers per hour. This platform can even intercept Russia's new jet-powered Shahed variants. All four of these models are domestically produced and are being mass-produced through the Brave One Defense Innovation Cluster. Here's how it works operationally. Radar or acoustic sensors detect an incoming Shahed. The operator views the target on a thermal camera screen. The interceptor drone takes off and heads toward the target. Upon approach, it either collides directly or detonates its 500 Greiber warhead near the target. As a result, the shade breaks apart in midair and the debris scatters over open terrain, rather than falling into civilian areas. The entire process takes just a few minutes, and the cost is 1,000th that of a Patriot missile. This small-scale air defense concept does not replace traditional systems. It complements them, while Patriot and Naim systems protect against ballistic and cruise missiles. The interceptors handle the low-cost drone threat. Each system operates in its own domain together, forming a multi-layered defense network. So how do these systems perform in the field? To find the answer, just look at the pilot with the call sign Hulk. Roman Hulk from the Bulava unmanned aerial vehicle unit shot down 2 Shahads with a Sting interceptor from a distance of 500 kilometers on April 4th. This world record marked the first time in history that an interceptor drone operator had hit a target at such a great distance from their starting position. At the time, Hulk was in a safe position, hundreds of kilometers behind the front lines. He destroyed 2 Shaheds in midair without being exposed to any physical danger. The unit has been active since November and has neutralized approximately 200 targets, including 184 Shaheds with a 95% success rate. They even managed to intercept a jet-powered Shahed variant capable of reaching speeds of 600 kilometers per hour. This was a critical moment, demonstrating the power of the bullet interceptor. The Bulava unit emphasized that these successes are not isolated experiments, but the beginning of mass deployment. The ability of a single crew to monitor and protect an area of hundreds of kilometers rather than the standard 20 to 30 kilometer allows the Ukrainian military to cover vast swaths of the sky while minimizing the number of personnel on the ground. But the 500 km record was soon surpassed. On April 17th, Wild Hornets raised the bar fourfold. A Sting interceptor remotely controlled by a pilot located outside Ukraine from a distance of 2,000 kilometers successfully carried out an operation in northern Ukraine. The pilot sits in an apartment, watches the Shahed in Ukrainian skies on his screen, and the interceptor drone shreds the target in the air thousands of kilometers away. This is made possible by the Hornet vision control system, a digital ecosystem providing HD quality video. Transmission and low latency control overcomes traditional signal limitations, completely disconnecting operators from the front lines. The biggest advantage of this technology is scalability. In the past, one operator was needed for every 20 to 30 kilometer area. Now, a single crew can monitor and protect hundreds of kilometers of territory, wider coverage with fewer operators, and none of the operators are in physical danger. And the Foxtrot crew attached to the 38th Air Defense Regiment demonstrated just how effective this system is in April. In a single 24-hour shift, they shot down a total of 30 Russian drones, 28 Shaheds and 2 Gerberas using Sting drones, 30 targets, 24 hours, a single crew. Wild Hornets announced that such numbers have now become routine. In March alone, interceptor drones and mobile fire groups together destroyed over 2,300 aerial targets. This represents a 55% increase compared to February. Even helicopters became part of this layered defense, neutralizing 379 drones on their own last month. These operations are impressive on their own, but the true strength lies in the systematic structure created by all of them working together. March 2026 marked a turning point for Ukraine's interceptor program when Defense Minister Fedorov announced the figures. On April 8th, the picture became clear. Over 33,000 enemy aerial vehicles were destroyed by interceptor drones in a single month. That's exactly double the figure from February. It's the highest monthly figure since the program began. And the vast majority of the targets shot down were kamikaze-type Shaheds. The rest were small UAVs like the Orlan, Zala and Gerber designed for reconnaissance and correction missions. Behind this success lies a massive supply chain operating through multiple channels. Over the past 4 months, the Ukrainian Defense Forces, the Defense Procurement Agency, the Army of Drones program, and the DOT Chain Defense Marketplace have received twice as many interceptor drones as were delivered throughout all of 2025. This multi-channel procurement mechanism ensures an uninterrupted flow. If one channel fails, the others step in. The scale of production is incredible. Over 10,000 Sting drones are produced each month. More than 280 companies are developing over 550 active solutions under the Brave One cluster, and every month new companies join, new models are tested, and existing models are improved. This is not just weapons production, it's an ecosystem. The Ministry of Defense clearly states its objectives: 100% detection of all enemy air targets and neutralization of at least 95% of them. March figures show how close we are to this goal. And with supply doubling in April, these numbers are expected to rise further. What can Russia do against this technological leap? Short answer, it's struggling, and every solution attempt creates a new problem. Russia is trying to accelerate jet-powered Gannon-Shahed variants. Faster drones could evade interceptors, but Ukraine's bullet interceptor has already responded to this threat by reaching 600 km per hour. Russia is deploying foam plastic decoys like Gerber and Parity in 30% of its attack waves, decoy drones designed to deplete cheap interceptors. But Ukraine's AI-powered thermal cameras can distinguish real targets from decoys. The number of interceptors wasted on decoys is steadily decreasing. Russia is trying to equip drones with air-to-air missiles and increase daytime attacks to reduce the effectiveness of thermal cameras. None of this eliminates Ukraine's fundamental advantage: the cost, asymmetry. An interceptor costs $1,000 to $2,500, while every Russian solution developed to evade it is exponentially more expensive. And while Ukraine produces 10,000 interceptors a month, Russia's production pace for counter-technology cannot keep up because sanctions are constraining the supply chain. The shortage of skilled workers has reached 4.8 million, and Soviet-era bureaucracy is slowing down innovation. Russian Zed propagandist Mickey Rebar-Zinchuk openly admitted the situation. Blaming neighbors is a convenient excuse, but it's not true. Russians must accept that Ukraine can now launch drones from very long distances. Even the Kremlin's own propaganda network cannot hide this technological gap. And history is repeating itself in a strange way here, because Russia has faced this exact situation before and lost then as well. In 1986 in Afghanistan, when the CIA supplied the Mujahideen with Stinger, shoulder-fired anti-aircraft missiles, the Soviets were fighting by relying on air superiority. Mi-24 Hind helicopters and Su-25 attack aircraft were crushing the Afghan resistance from the air. Then the Stingers arrived. These small missiles costing $20,000 to $30,000 began shooting down Soviet helicopters and aircraft worth millions of dollars. Approximately 270 Soviet aircraft were shot down by Stingers. Soviet pilots developed countermeasures, low-altitude flights, night operations, heat traps, but these were both too late and insufficient. Helicopter support collapsed, supply lines were left unprotected, and the fear of death from the sky among the troops led to a collapse in morale. The Stingers did not win the war on their own, but they shattered the myth of the Soviet Union's invincible air power and were one of the critical factors that accelerated Gorbachev's decision to withdraw in 1988 to 89. Now, the same scenario is repeating itself in Ukraine, but on a much larger scale. Stingers were shoulder-fired and had a range of just a few kilometers. Ukraine's interceptor drones are controlled from 2,000 kilometers away. Stingers were available in limited quantities. Ukraine produces 10,000 interceptors per month. Stingers were effective only against helicopters and low-flying aircraft. Interceptor drones can track air targets of any type and at any altitude. And the psychological impact created by the Stingers, the fear that we can no longer fly safely, is now being felt in the same way by Russian drone operators and commanders. History is repeating the same lesson. A cheap, mass-producible, and asymmetric weapon can paralyze the air power of a large army. The Soviets learned this lesson in Afghanistan. Putin's Russia is learning the same lesson in Ukraine, but this time, the lesson is far more brutal because the impact of interceptor drones isn't limited to the air. It directly alters the balance on the front lines. In March 2026, Russian forces suffered 33,951 casualties, the highest monthly figure of the war. Percent of these casualties were caused by drone attacks. Here's how it works. Interceptors shoot down Russian reconnaissance drones, blinding the artillery. Since Russian artillery cannot identify targets, it cannot fire accurately. Since they cannot fire accurately, Ukrainian positions suffer less damage. And during the same period, Ukraine's ground robots have carried out over 9,000 logistics missions, dramatically reducing infantry casualties. When these two systems work together, Ukraine achieves a 1.5 casualty ratio. For every one Ukrainian soldier, there are 5 Russian soldiers. According to Commander and Chief Syrskyi, Ukraine holds a 1.3 to 1 advantage in the use of attack drones. Some brigades aim to use robots at a 30% rate instead of infantry, and Zelensky has demanded the production of at least 50,000 ground robots per year. Drone fear among Russian soldiers is leading to a collapse in morale. Units deploying to the front encounter drone threats, even while still at assembly points, making rotations more difficult. As Russia grapples with these challenges, the international impact of this technology is growing, and Ukraine is turning it into a strategic asset. Polish Prime Minister Tusk announced that Ukraine's drone expertise will be combined with Polish and EU funds to create an interceptor fleet. Ukraine's unique experience in combat with unmanned aerial vehicles will help protect Poland and the EU from air attacks, he said. Norway signed a joint drone production agreement in addition to $7 billion in defense aid. Thousands of medium-range drones will be produced in Norway, and deliveries will begin this summer. Norwegian Defense Minister Sandvik described this as a collaboration that benefits both countries and strengthens Norway's defense industry. Estonia has signed new agreements regarding unmanned aerial vehicle procurement and anti-drone technologies. It is allocating 0.25% of its GDP to support Ukraine. 6 defense industry agreements have been signed with Azerbaijan, and Ukrainian experts are providing on-site support for air defense against Iranian attacks, and Gulf countries such as Saudi Arabia and the UAE have begun showing serious interest in Ukrainian interceptors. Partners in the Middle East want to integrate Ukraine's battle-proven anti-drone architecture into their own defenses. This technology is of vital importance, especially for countries facing the Iranian drone threat. Zelensky announced that spending priorities within the EU's €90 billion support package will be directed toward drones. This technology, born out of the war in Ukraine, is becoming a global export product and a diplomatic asset. Drone diplomacy is now an integral part of Ukraine's foreign policy. Looking at the bigger picture, Ukraine's interceptor drone program has fundamentally shifted the cost balance of the war. In less than a year, it evolved from a conceptual idea into an industrial system capable of destroying 33,000 targets per month. Take a look at the timeline. In the spring of 2024, the first R&D work began via the Brave One platform. The testing and scaling phase was completed throughout 2025. Full operational capability was achieved by early 2026. And in March 2026, 33,000 targets were destroyed in a single month. The transition from concept to industrial scale took less than 2 years. This pace is unimaginable for Russia's centralized and bureaucratic defense industry. Drones costing between $800 and $3,000 took on the burden of $4 million Patriot missiles and preserved traditional stockpiles. The remote control range, which started at 500 kilometers, has increased to 2,000 kilometers. Operations that began on land have expanded to sea and air. More interceptors have been delivered in the last 4 months than in all of 2025, and Russia's countermeasures cannot keep up with Ukraine's pace of adaptation. At the start of the war, Russia was using its cheap drones to deplete Ukraine's expensive missiles. Now, Ukraine is using its cheaper drones to destroy Russia's cheap drones. The equation has completely flipped, and this shift is irreversible because Ukraine is producing faster every month, developing smarter systems and gaining more international partners. Defense Minister Fedorov's words sum up this transformation. The future of war belongs to autonomous systems. Ukraine is writing this future right now, and the world is watching because this technology tested in Crimea, proven in Donetsk and expanded in the Black Sea is transforming not just a war, but air. Defense itself. Russia's biggest problem is this. It has neither the time nor the resources to resist this change. And every night, another shade falling from Ukraine's skies proves this reality. So, what are your thoughts on this topic? Please share your thoughts in the comments. To stay updated on TGN's special analyses, please subscribe to our channel and don't forget to turn on notifications. Let's meet on Spotify to make long journeys shorter and traffic more enjoyable.